All right, so we have a very special guest with us today. He and I first met very, very briefly at the Rip Curl Pro Search event in Chile in 2007, and he was already a legend at that point. In the years since, he's established himself as one of the foremost members of the global big wave community. He's an essential part of the Big Wave Risk Assessment Group, BRAG, and seemingly on every major swell of note. He's also dedicated his time and energy to making significant progress in the realm of environmental conservation, being tagged as the, quote, illustrious son of Pichilemu. We have Ramón Navarro. Ramón, thank you so much for joining us on the lineup today.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for the invite. It's an honor for me. Thank you for all your words, what you say about me. Thank you, man.
Well, you're coming to us from your car right now. Where are you? What are you getting up to today?
I'm right now in a beach. My son and a couple of friends are surfing a little beach break, so I'm in that mood right now. It's a small day here in Pichilemu. The waves are pretty small, but it's a big swell coming tomorrow, so that's why my little boy and all his friends want to be in the water the most time today. So tomorrow's that time.
Tomorrow, do you get to surf? Is that how that works?
Yeah, exactly. Tomorrow looks like the way it's going to be big again. We have a really good season this year. We have a lot of swells. Actually, we have one pretty big one last week, one of the biggest one of the year. And it's been a really good season so far.
Very cool. I did want to tell this story, right? So I mentioned that you and I, we first met 16 years ago, yikes, now, very briefly at the Rip Curl Pro Search Chile Championship Tour event, where you featured on the Chile team in the Foster's Surf Showdown alongside CT Wildcard at that event, which was Manuel Selman. Funny enough, I was on a trip last week and that event came up and I told the story of how the surf at El Gringo in Arica was so solid and scary pretty much every day. Most of the CT surfers had never been there. And every day we would walk from our hotel along the coastline up the man-made peninsula to see what the call was. The surf was 8 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, however you want to characterize it, and just slabbing onto this rock shelf. And we had the world's best surfers in town, but the water was virtually empty aside from this small crew that were out every morning. And those surfers were Chris Ward, Luke Monroe, Josh Kerr, and yourself. And the event call back then, it was a vote between the surfers representative, who was Phil McDonald at the time, the event director from Rip Curl, who was Neil Ridgway, and the then ASP head judge, Perry Hatchett. And every day we would turn up and the script would be exactly the same. Neil would say, it's pumping out there. Let's go. Let's start the event. And Phil Macca would say, it's way too dangerous. No way. And Perry Hatchett would say, it is too dangerous. We're going to have a lay day. And this went on for 4 or 5 days until eventually Neil goes, it's pumping out there. Let's go. And Phil says, no way. It's still too dangerous. And Perry finally goes, it's not getting any smaller. We have to go right now. And yet every day, it was Chris, Luke, Josh, and yourself who were out there just charging and kind of showing the world's best surfers it could be done. And I'm curious if you remember it the same way, because that story's been stuck in my head for 15 years.
Oh, that's crazy. There's a lot of time happened, huh? I didn't realize it was so many years. But yeah, it was. I mean, for me, Arica and all my friends, actually, we drive in every season to Arica and surf at Gringo every day those years. I mean, we stay like 3 solid 4 months in the winter time, and we pretty much surf every day, which is big or not too big or small. It's just amazing wave. It's just sketchy. It's really dangerous, but when you surf a lot of time, when you spend a lot of time in that lineup, you understand really good how the current and the reef and which one are the good ones. So yeah, it was really surprised to me those years. Like all the pros didn't want to surf. It was kind of like a weird, because I have that view of the perfect wave and perfect A-frames left and right, and everyone called it was too dangerous. But for me, I was just kind of like another day in El Gringo. But I understand. I mean, all the pros, you need to take care It's a sketchy wave. It's a place you need to spend a lot of time to understand really good, and a lot of those guys get really pounded, and actually a few of them get gnarly injuries. I remember Adriano smashed his face to the reef. He never want to get back there. So yeah, I think I have the same view what you say. Besides, I just look for good waves, and obviously, I want to show up to everyone. It's kind of like the way we surf, and especially those years, I'm trying to make my name, so it was a good opportunity to do it.
Absolutely, and I think in the upcoming segment we're going to talk about a little bit of your biography before and after that moment, but flashing forward to the present, your work and dedication to environmental conversation, by the time our lineup episode drops, in just a couple of days, your film with Patagonia, Corazón Salado, which I think translates to Salty Heart, drops in time for World Oceans Day on June 8th. So just background, can you tell us a little bit about the film and what is it about?
Well, this is a real special film. I mean, because it's filmed in a deep Patagonia, deep South Patagonia, so places like not many people have the opportunity to go there, So we taking boats and we go into gnarly ocean with really bad access, and we basically go camping a couple of days in the middle of the nowhere, finding some amazing waves. It's perfect A-frames and point breaks and crazy wildland. And but at the same time, we're working with local community, the Kawésqar community. They used to be indigenous community for deep Patagonia South. So we work with there, and we starting to show up a little bit surfing, a little what the problem they have, and show pretty much how amazing those places are and how natural important is for the whole world. And at the same time, we pretty much shock with this crazy issue, which is salmon farming issues in the deep south of the Patagonia. So the film is something about local community, protect places, surfing, and how we do a really good impact for the local community, because by the end of the story, we actually put the local kids into the water, things that they never doing for years, for generations. So we make a little diving class, and we make a little diving school, and we put local community into the water, which was amazing. One of the coolest experiences I have in my life. So it's a really cool film, man. It's something beautiful in one part, and super sad to just be in the middle of the nowhere, and it's a lot of trash from the salmon farming industry, which should have a really big impact in all the area.
For sure. And I mean, I've been fortunate enough to view the film. It's incredible. And one of the things I noticed too is there are so many parallels. Obviously, you're someone who comes from Chile. You are the son of a fisherman, but then you have someone like Leticia Caro, who is a representative of the Kawésqar community. She's also the child of a fisherman. And so it was just very cool to see the different layers of you working with that community, and then really identifying, the way that they interacted with that part of the country and that part of the Patagonia area. The problems that have arisen due to like hyper commercialization and industrialization. And really it talked about a pretty fair balance of just reviewing each side and saying, look, like not all progress goes in the right direction. Sometimes it goes down a cul-de-sac and we do things wrong, and we have to get back to something that worked, 50, 100 years ago.
I mean, well, this is a crazy story, because like, if you're talking about Kawésqar community, talking about which was the real way they used to live, is not far away. It's like 150 years ago, 200 years ago. They used to be diving community. They used to hang around all those crazy channels deep in the Patagonia in canoes, and tiny little canoes and moving into the channel. All the women are divers. So, and then when the people
Yeah.
show up in Chile, talking about 150, 200 years ago, it was one of the biggest genocide in the history. You know, they kill everyone, and just a few of them
Yeah.
uh, keep alive and running away and hiding there in the islands until the whole government in Chile get in there and starting this supposedly colonization, which is affect in a big time to the local communities. Kawésqar and Alacalufes, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of more communities that used to live there in the wildest places and super heavy cold water, nasty weather, you know, and they used to live and enjoy those places and respect those places. So when now you see everyone talking about like the indigenous community disappear, and when you know people like Leticia and his dad and the whole community, you realize the community is still alive, you know, it's still there, it's on the blood, but they have no access to the ocean because people take care of everything from there. So the other side, you see like this big globalization is starting growing and growing salmons in places that have never been salmon. You need to put in part like salmon is not from Chile fish, you know, the North American fish. And
Sure.
that impact to the local community, to the indigenous community, to fishermen, it's something really hard to see it, you know, because on one side, yeah, Leticia's dad is fisherman as my dad, so we're talking the same language, so we get really close together and we jump in the boat and we go all these fjords in the Patagonia, and by the end of the day, we're talking pretty much the same story, how all this big globalization is starting to destroy the resources and it's starting to destroy the environmental, and just numbers and numbers and numbers, and just business trying to growing and growing and growing, but nobody take care of Mother Nature. Nobody take care of like those wild places. You know, there's not many in the world already. There's just a few places like hotspot, you guys call it, and the Deep Patagonia is one of them. So for me and for the whole Patagonia team, we've been working in this project for 3 years, trying to put that reality out in a film and trying to, you know, help a little bit, because we go against the law, we go against governments, politicians, and obviously salmon farming, which is, if you put in numbers, is pretty much David and Goliath. You're fighting against something huge, and it's going to be a really hard battle to win. But we're trying our best, and we keep pushing in our heart to people understand how important is respect Mother Nature, and especially for this podcast, which is really important, is like make American people understand the salmon from Chile is something polluted the water here. I mean, it's not a healthy fish. It's not what like they say is like fancy fish from the clear water on the Patagonia. It's the other side. They put a lot of antibiotic, antiparasite, and they destroy the culture and destroy the fjords in the south. So it's super tough, and the idea with the film is show up to everyone what actually is the truth from salmon in Chile.
Yeah, and that definitely comes across in the film too, you know. And I also think that the example that you highlight in the film is also one that you can look at around the world as well. Like one of the comments from the film, and I'll paraphrase, but it was something to the effect of, you know, it's taken 4.5 billion years to shape what we have now, and only 4.5 decades more are left to unravel those systems that make our existence possible. And I think of that in like the relativity of time. Like there's a lot of young people that listen to this podcast, you know, to them 45 years seems like forever, you know, and they'd be like, oh yeah, this is how it's always been done. It's like, no, it's a blip. It's a blip in the entire arc of this ecosystem. And there's no reason you cannot adjust and optimize and change things to something that's more sustainable. Did that strike you at all when you were working on the film, just how something that has been evolving for so long can be changed so quickly? And I guess on the other side of that, do you have any optimism that it can be changed for the better on the other side of it?
Yeah, that what Sylvia say that, and it's pretty amazing. Actually, make me cry when you hear it and when you see you trying your best, and actually government don't think in that way, just thinking about growing and growing and growing. I mean, actually yesterday Chile was kind of like a huge hope because the politician voted a new law to protect areas like marine and national parks and water, and we're waiting for that. And the response from politicians yesterday was the other side. Like they're not going to be allowed salmon farming and the natural reserve and the national park. So, I mean, sometimes you have a hope, but when things like that happen, kind of like your whole world fell down, because it's like it's not just Chile, it's every single place in the world. We're never thinking in the future, everyone thinking about here and now money and make business bigger and bigger and bigger, how our numbers gonna grow. And nobody thinking what legacy we're gonna give for our childs, for new generations, even a few more generations past that. So, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy because it's crazy and hard to have a hope, because if you think in this supposedly technology world, when you have access to all the information with everything just in your phone, just a couple clicks and you're going to understand everything. We're still in the point like the whole world they don't want to make, a climate pact or how to call it, like coalition or argument to everyone, every single country work in the same way and they say, okay, we're gonna protect our ocean, we're gonna protect our world because it's the only one we have. So every single country is still fighting and pushing, besides to just growing and growing and growing, but nobody thinking about the future. And it's like, if you're thinking locally, that is like, I mean, this is my home. I have to protect it. I don't have another home. It's my home, and I want to leave my home in the better way for my son and for the next generation. So it's for your question, it's super hard to have a really hope. I mean, it's a lot of things going in a good way. It's a lot of people working to try these things change. But the other side, mostly the power, the politicians have it. They don't push it in that way. I mean, it's not something
and I
like
think that's
It's not something they don't know. It's something they don't want it to do it. Because I mean, humans have the tools. Come on, everyone have the tools today. Everyone know how the best way to do it and what is the best for environmental. But they actually want to do it. My answer is no.
Yeah, and I think that your story, you can apply it, like that same tension, to so many different spaces, whether it's political spaces or social spaces or whatever it is. And it's hard, right? Because I think what you're identifying is you get these spaces that are siloed, right? We've got end stage capitalism over here, which is like, I'm only thinking about money and the bottom line and this and this and this. And then you have people over here who care about the environment. And they almost the two groups look at one another like, oh no, they're the enemy, we've got nothing in common, and vice versa. And I think that's how we kind of end up in these situations where there is no change. And you've got a comment in the film and you say, artisanal fishing is disappearing in the South as a result of the salmon industry that forces them to work in their centers. And because resources are running out, because the salaries are better to work there, the culture is beginning to be lost. And I know I've kind of just put you on the spot in terms of, do you have any kind of hope for us to kind of change the trajectory of this certain situation? But going back to my other point on the silos, do you think there's anything that could bridge those two groups in the sense of, are there elements of artisanal fishing and that culture that could be attractive and not corrupted by industrial fishing? And maybe are there elements of industrial fishing that could be applied in a non-harmful way to the artisanal fishing communities, maybe technology or whatever? And is that a potential to create a bridge where everyone's kind of working towards a goal that is maybe they're not making as much money, but they're still making a little bit of money, but they're also not damaging the environment.
I mean, the thing is, I don't know how that thing works in the States, but for Chile, I mean, we don't have regulations, and that's the main problem. I mean, the water, we don't have police in the water. You know, nobody actually is the one who's gonna take care of the things doing the right way or doing the wrong way. So that's the kind of like the main problem. In Chile, we have Servicio Nacional de Pesca, which is like National Service of Fishing. But those guys are supposedly the one that have to regulate everything. They don't have boats, you know? So supposedly they have to regulate everything from the land. So they can control pretty much artisanal fishing and small fisheries, but they're never going to control industrial fishing, commercial fishing, and besides the salmon farming is exactly the same thing. Actually, they don't have boats. So like I say, to go deep in the fjords, it's super hard access. When they had to go to control in any spot when the salmons are pretty much the same salmon farming, they had to go to the big cities, take them in the boat and their boat, go to the salmon place, check everything, and go back. So it was like pretty much you go into the police officers in your car, picking up and go to your house to figure out if everything is good. So say that it's super hard to try to understand and make something work in the water in Chile. You know, I don't know if that goes straight to your question, but I mean, with the no regulation, and when the regulation it is nobody gonna take care. Basically, the big guys have to auto-regulate by themselves, so they do basically whatever they want. So it's super hard to put in balance what the local fishers can actually do in the future and what actually the industrial fishing and salmon farming can do in the future because no regulation. So everyone take whatever they want from the ocean and nobody regulate and nobody control it. So it's something that is no way going to work, you know?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like within that scenario, you know, your work with Patagonia on Corazón Salado is really one of the most important, if not the most important thing you can do, because you're putting the story out there and educating a public that can hopefully engender change at a structural level politically and then create regulation. That seems like that's the intent. That's probably why this film is super important. It's obviously very engaging to watch, but for listeners of our podcast who do watch the film and want to do something, what can they do? What do you recommend they do?
I mean, in the film is going to be a link, so everyone can sign the link, and which is the local community want to do it and everyone support them. Is right now the Kawésqar place is a national reserve. So what we want it turned into a national park. So that's kind of like everyone can sign and help us because with a national reserve, there is no protection in the water. And if you turn into a national park, supposedly it's going to get better protection in the water. But like I said, yesterday they bought the new law, which is supposedly they're going to be allowed to salmon farming growing in the national park and the national reserve. So it's a crazy balance, but supposedly it's a national park. There is going to be more regulations and more layers of protection for that place. So that is kind of like the only thing we're trying to do and make the government understand. It's a lot of people, not just from Chile, from the whole world, trying to protect the deep area in the Patagonia, the Kawésqar Reserve, the old Patagonia Deep South. So that's kind of like we asking for, and that's actually we hoping for. So everyone can link and the Patagonia webpage when the film is out and sign the petition. It's gonna be a big help.
Awesome. Well, by the time this episode comes out, we will definitely have a link to the film in our show notes. So everyone go check out Corazón Salado. We're going to take a quick break to get a word in from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. All right, we are here with Ramón Navarro. You know, Ramón, we spent the first segment talking about your film Corazón Salado, but tell us a bit about your background. You know, born and raised. Where did you grow up? What was your family life like?
I mean, I'm from Pichilemu, which is um, the place I more love. Coming from a fisherman family, um, Pichilemu is like 3 hours south from Santiago, the place with a lot of perfect point breaks, beautiful waves, pretty much these waves every day here. And this is a place where I grew up. I love to grow up here. And in those years, Pichilemu was a tiny little town, just fishermen used to live here. And and then the surfing showed up into my life and then into the town and just like a boom, Now it's a huge city compared to what it was 15, 20 years ago. And everything go between surfing and tourism right now. So that's it. That's it, man. Pretty much.
Well, and you mentioned surfing coming into your life. Like, how old were you when it came into your life, and what was that experience? Did travelers come to town? How did you get introduced to surfing?
I mean, I was diving or not diving, but learning to dive and be in the ocean with my dad mostly the time when I was 6, 7, 8 until 11, pretty much. And then one day I saw people surfing pretty much in front of my house. And that was kind of like something weird to me and something new to me. But at the same time, it was like, wow, I have a lot of connection with the ocean. And I'm pretty much all day in the water. This is something fun, looks like. So I'm starting just sitting on the beach and watch those guys surfing. And until they get the point, one of those guys broke a board and give me my first board. It was a Brazilian board broken like 3 or 4 times, and I fixed it, and that was my first board, and that's how I was starting surfing. I was 13 years old at that time. It was super special because
Wow. And
it was super hard to have access, to boards and wetsuits and everything here.
yeah.
So I don't have it. And I just in the beginning I was surfing with spring suit, trunks, diving suit until the point I was actually surfing, and actually I realized, wow, I like this thing. And a few years later I buy my first wetsuit, and then I realized how good the surfer wetsuit was because in the beginning I was just surfing with spring suit here in the cold water.
Yeah, and so we're talking 13. So what that's like the early 1990s, mid 1990s. And as you said, it sounds like you got a board off of Brazilian. It doesn't sound like there was a huge surfing scene in Chile at the time. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, it was nothing. It was in Pichilemu. I think it was like 5, 6 guys surfing, maybe 10, but actually nobody dedicated his life actually. You know, and for me, that was 93. I believe in 96, I decided to be a professional surfer in my brain. No, actually, doing it, but in my brain,
Sure. Yeah.
in my brain, I say to my dad and my mom, I want to be a professional surfer, and they just laughing about it and say, yeah, like who? Only one Chilean is a professional, and they're completely right. No one, And I
Yeah.
think for me the big change was 99 when I went for the first time to Hawaii. I realized my dream, it was really hard because my level of small wave surfing, it wasn't that good. You need to think about those years, especially in Chile. We don't have surf videos. We don't have internet. It's just barely magazines show up. If you want, guys, bring a couple of those to the town. We don't have access to surfboard, wetsuits. So basically, you buy any surfboards, whatever size and dimensions are. You buy any wetsuit, whatever good or bad it is. And so the whole actually real war of surfing, it was in '99 when I went to Hawaii. And then I realized, like, wow, surf level is super high, but I see the first time would actually I see this window, which is wow, is a scenes in a big wave surfing, and I have big waves in my town in Lobos, and actually nobody enjoyed it and nobody worked on that. And then I realized, and we have a lot of big waves in Chile. So I think, I mean, definitely I saw opportunity there. I say like, okay, I'm gonna try to focus on big waves and discovering new waves in Chile, and gonna try to make my career and between Chile and Hawaii and searching for big waves. So that's is pretty much how everything started. And I don't have no idea how that idea come out into my mind, because it was a super hard road to take, especially coming from Chile. But until the point actually get the level and the boards and all the equipment to starting surfing big waves, it's just starting to come out beautiful and like a dream come true, because yes, it was the revolution of the internet and all the media things starting growing. So kind of like I feel the whole world had that they want to see new waves, they want to see new big waves, they want to see new places like Arica, like you say, like a Gringo, Iquique, Lobos, big waves in Lobos. That's pretty much how I make my name here.
It's so interesting that you bring that point up, because it's something we like to talk about on the podcast a lot. And that is that, in 2023, because of the internet, and I'm sure this is the case with your son, who you're watching surfing right now, right, is everyone has access to everything. Like, I can watch a video of how, Gabriel Medina or Stephanie Gilmore surfs that particular wave. I can watch their technique, or I can watch them live on a championship tour event. Shapers can, share information about materials and templates. You can get information about diet and fitness and training, all these things everyone has access to. But as you pointed out, in Chile in the early to mid 1990s, it's your access is maybe someone left a VHS video, maybe there's a magazine. That's your understanding of professional surfing. And as you pointed out, going to Hawaii was eye-opening in the sense of like, wow, this is what the level is in these different kinds of spaces. And it's interesting to hear you say, I took home that the opportunity for me is in the big wave space. And I'd imagine that has something to do just with where you grew up, right? The Chilean coastline is one of the longest in the world. It's, 4,200 kilometers north to south. And you've got tons of variety and tons of power. And as you said, a big wave spot in your backyard. And so would you say that the way you approached your dream of being a professional surfer from the time you were 16 at home to after you returned from Hawaii was radically different? Were you kind of like, okay, I thought I was doing this, but now I'm going to do that?
I mean, it was kind of like no options. I mean,
sure, yeah.
I mean, I remember I showed up in December to October to Hawaii, and I saw, I don't know, days later, I think it was surfing Little Backdoor, and I was like, wow, and then I saw like the Pipe Master, and I saw the Haleiwa event, the Sunset event. So I was like, wow, I'm so far away from that level. But like I said, at the same time, I saw Waimea break, and it was the first time I saw actually big boards. Nobody had big boards in Chile those years. Nobody had like a 9.8, 9.6, 10 footers. I mean, the biggest board I had those years was a 7.4. So that was when I saw like the big opportunity. That was like, wow. And everyone that year, actually, because I don't know. I mean, obviously for me, obviously looking in big waves, but I think everyone in Hawaii those years talk about the big wave things, and the focus was in Waimea. I mean, those years nobody surfed just yet. A few other reefs surfing here and there, but Waimea was kind of like the main break, and everyone talk about the Eddie. I mean, if you one day you're dreaming about the big wave scenes, to be in the Eddie is kind of like the main goal, and everyone talking about that. So for me, that was like, wow. I mean, like a little penguin coming in the movie. I mean, the little penguin coming from the Antarctica and dreaming to be in the contest. That was for me, wow.
Yes.
Be Eddie. I was like, oh my God. I mean, it's going to be the biggest goal in my whole life. One day be in the Eddie. That was kind of like thick in my mind those years. And I think that was like the main focus. And next year, 2000 and 2001, and every single year there, I was just working the whole season and between studies and surfing local events in here. Actually, I win a couple nationals champs a couple years and make money to go to Hawaii and surf Waimea. I mean, every single day Waimea was breaking, I was there and putting time and then get it back to Chile, going to Arica, between Lobos and Arica, and then go back to Hawaii just to focus in Waimea. So I think all these ideas I have since the 16 years old all the way until the Eddie, I mean the Waimea thing, just focus in big waves and training to one day be in the Eddie. That was kind of like my main goal in my life.
I mean, it's one thing to say, yep, I'm going to focus on big wave surfing. It's another thing to accomplish anything in big wave surfing. And just a very, very summary, non-comprehensive look at your career highlights. Rode La Bestia in 2004 in Chile. First place at the Quicksilver Ceremonial, Punta de Lobos, 2006. Fifth place at the 2009 Eddie Aikau. You and Manuel Selman, you win the Foster Surf Showdown at the Rip Curl Pro Search Chile 2007. The Monster Energy Drop Award at the 2009 Eddie Aikau. Third place, Toto Santos Big Wave event in 2010. Second place, finish at the Quicksilver Ceremonial Punta de Lobos 2011. Second place on the Big Wave World Tour in 2011. Ride of the Year nominee in the Billabong XXL Awards in 2012. That's not even a comprehensive list of all your accomplishments in the big wave space, and you've achieved so much coming from somewhere that, as you pointed out, didn't even really have a big wave surfing community when you were growing up. You had to pioneer it yourself. Do you ever think about that? Just the idea that you essentially had to create that community inside of Peru for yourself.
Wow, I never put all those records together. Wow, I didn't realize a few of the things you say. It's pretty amazing. I mean, it was hard in one side, but it was super good in the other one because it was actually pretty easy to do it when you have the tools, because I went to Hawaii and learned from obviously Cole Christensen and Mark Healy and all the boys there. And a few of those guys coming to Chile with me to surf, So it was super easy to just, okay, here's a big wave in that place. Let's go. We need just one ski and go. And you show up there, was nobody there. I come in already from the idea surfing Waimea or the other is in Hawaii with 100 people in the water. You're just getting back to Chile, was nobody there. Actually, nobody wanted to surf those waves. So for me, it was like, okay, I'm training in Hawaii, going to Chile, and I'm going to have the waves just for me and my couple friends, So we make a really good group together between Cristian Merelo, Diego Medina, Alfredo Escobar taking pictures and just pushing this little group. We are 4 or 5 guys searching for big waves and doing the job. Nobody actually want to do it. Nobody actually looking for it. So it was, like I say, it was hard in one part because we don't have the knowledge and we don't know how hard it could be or how dangerous it could be because we still like in those years, 2000 all the way to 2011. Nobody used impact vests. Nobody used inflatable vests. I mean, we don't have the proper big wave leashes. We have it, and we are in remote places with no much access, like to proper doctors or hospital, nothing. So it was a super fun mission, man, and I love it. I love it. I mean, it couldn't be better than that for me. It's like a dream come true. And the crazy thing about it is, like, even today, 25 years past that, we're still searching for big waves, and we still discovering new big waves in Chile. So this is pretty amazing. I mean, we still have that opportunity to surf places nobody ever surfed, and it was a lot more potential. I mean, even in the deep Patagonia where I was a couple months ago, it was crazy waves, difficult access, but the waves are there, you know? So I think I was really lucky to grow up in a place like Chile with all these conditions and all these new waves. So we just had to do the job.
It's been awesome to watch. We're going to take one more quick break to get a word in from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. You know, we've reviewed your impressive and inspiring trajectory as a professional surfer in the big wave space. You talked about your connection with the ocean from an early age, you know, diving with your dad at 6. You know, when did environmental activism and your concern for, you know, ocean ecology come into your life professionally, in the sense of, you know, how did it start to work with your sponsors? How did it start to work with projects like Corazón Salado for you? Or was that something that was always there for you?
I mean, I remember when I was a little kid with my dad taking always. The first thing actually I remember was like I had to be 10 years old, and I was psyching to go diving and looking when the waves are flat in Chile, which is we don't have many days like that, but I always see, because my dad wake up really early and go check the ocean. And I remember exactly one day we go check the ocean, and it was completely flat. And I was like, "Oh, Dad, let's go to that place. You remember that place we went last time? It was amazing. So many fish. That's the place to go." And he said, "No, you know what? We don't have access to that place because the landlord of that place, they don't want people going in the middle of the winter because the road it can get bad, and so we had to go to this other place." And I remember that thing is stuck in my mind forever. So I always was like, "What the hell? Why we cannot go to just dive in a place because the landlord say you don't have access?" And we were talking about access here is places like it's nothing around. You know, you're not gonna go break into the house to get to the beaches. Places, especially those years, was places like big landfills with nobody around. So that thing is stuck in my mind, and I remember it was in 2000, the first time in Pichilemu the government wanted to put a pipe, a sewage pipe in the middle of the town. And the whole local community starting get together and fighting against. And because of that year, I already win a couple events. They put me in the front as a surfer. So we go on all those meetings and everything, and we actually win that fight because we had the study about, not the study, but the knowledge about how the sandbar moving and how the ocean works and the currents and everything. Between surfers and fishermen, we stopped the project because what the people from the project say was completely wrong. And that was actually the first time I realized I have a voice, because my surfer career, my name, and actually I had the opportunity to fight with my voice and to the media things, and actually media hear me and give me the opportunity to talk about it. So since there, that was 2000. Since there, I said, okay, I'm gonna use my voice to protect what I love, which is the ocean, you know, which is something super, obviously.
Yeah. Well, Ramón, your feet's in the water, your commitment to ocean conservation and you know, ecological sustainability is beyond impressive. Encourage everyone to check out your new film, Corazón Salado. We will have a link in the show notes. Before you go, we did put out a feeler to our followers on Instagram at the Lineup Pod for some questions. The first question is from @Norbel R, who says, big fan. Do you have any advice for surfers afraid to surf big waves or how to handle that fear?
Wow, I think the best is surf the most you can. I mean, to surf big waves, you need to surf a lot, training a lot, and the psychological part is really important. I mean, if you can make a good balance in between training, a lot of surf, and psychological thing, I mean, your mind setup is in the right place. And obviously, step by step, you definitely want to go big from one day to the other, from 3 foot all the way to 20 foot. You need to go 3, 5, 6, and growing like that way. So I think that is one like the main key, and then the other part is like obviously you have to like it. I mean, if you don't like big waves, don't go, man. I mean, you have to push yourself because like from someone can be a big wave. I mean, for me, a big wave can be, I don't know, 20 feet. For another people, big wave can be 10 feet. Enjoy what you're doing. I mean, if you're going to serve big waves for you, keep in there and then from there, pushing more.
Great answer. Next question is from @Hermes_Pineda, who asks, what is the best season for waves in Chile?
I mean, depend what you're looking for. We really like here. We have waves every year. I mean, all year round. I mean, for me, the best season obviously is March to May, June, like starting getting into the winter time. But if you move in north of Chile, actually, is the main winter of the South Hemisphere is good because the north, the desert never rain, is sunny every day. You don't need much. Just to be there in the winter time is going to be waves every day.
Very cool. And the last question that we selected from the Instagram community is from @TooCoolForMegan, who asks, do you have any particular routine or rituals that you do before you surf big waves?
I don't know. No, like, obviously the first part is check my equipment the day early. Boards, leash, impact, inflatable beds, skis, and everything. That's kind of like the routine, like the proper routine. And I have it always ready for that. And then just enjoy trying to eat good, drink a lot of water. And in the morning, wake up really early, have my mate. It's kind of like the main routine, and the main thing is the mate. And then hear good music and trying to be in a good vibe all day, just laughing and joking with friends, so those nerves can go out. And it's been changing from years, Now just trying to enjoy every session, no matter get waves or no waves. Just trying to be in the water and enjoy it because I love it, and I have no pressure right now. Just trying to go out and do my best and enjoy it. So I think that balance is better right now.
Awesome. And great questions from the folks at the Lineup Pod. We appreciate those. We are now down to our final segment, which is the lightning round. So these are 10 questions for you to answer as quickly as you can.
Okay.
If you could only have one board set up for the rest of your life, a single fin, twin fin, thruster, quad bonzer, or finless, which would you choose?
It's gonna be a 9-6 quad. If it's the only board I'm gonna have forever.
Coffee or tea?
Mate.
Burrito or pizza?
Which is tea.
I got that one.
Burrito.
Last book you read?
Last book I read, they call the Wagner, which is an adventure about a lost ship in the deep Patagonia. It's crazy.
Cool.
The Fragata Wagner, call it.
The Forgotten Wagner. Okay. What is the best surf film ever?
180 South.
Good choice.
Love it.
What is one wave you never have to go back to?
Oh, boom, 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 boom. Wow. Mavericks? I want to get back, but I don't want to get back.
That's a good answer. If you only get to surf one wave for the rest of your life, which would it be?
Punta de Lobos.
Best person to share a lineup with?
My son.
Worst person to share a lineup with?
Myself when I'm angry.
Last one. Finish this sentence. I will next achieve a state of happiness by...
Oh, just be in the water no matter what.
Awesome. Ramón Navarro, thank you so much for coming on the lineup. Thank you so much for everything you do in the water and out of the water. I recommend everyone check out Corazón Salado and to support the cause that's discussed in the film. Thanks again, man. Look forward to seeing what you get up to next.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you guys for the opportunity, and I hope you enjoy the podcast.